Everybody could, there's information at the table coming in, and as well as board book on rrps.org. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Visitor input. Did you have anybody sign up ahead of time? Is there anybody in the audience who would like to address the board? Doesn't look like it. Consent agenda, we are going to, there was a change, so we are going to remove.
Approval of agenda first, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
No, you should,
Oh, yeah, it
you
is.
should correct it and then do the approval of the agenda.
No, I think Brandy's right first.
Okay.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? I'm sorry.
One second.
Sorry, Lisa Westby?
Any
discussion?
additions?
Is there any additions?
Yes, Director Yuan, we would like to add, Kraus Anderson is here to give an update on the 1404 special education rebuild with possible board action. So we would like to add that to the agenda.
You want to do that at 5.05 to put in first in reports?
Yeah, we can do it there, wherever you would like.
All right, let's put it there, 5.05, Klaus Anderson.
And I'd like to add referendum discussion.
He's gonna have a superintendent, super report.
Oh, okay. And also the school handbook updates. We talked about that a few months ago. And I know it hasn't been updated yet, and I'd like to just check on it.
I will talk about that during the superintendent's.
Okay.
All right, thank you for those. Any other additions, deletions? Any discussion on the agenda? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Visitor input, sorry, I skipped ahead there, so. Still nobody wants to talk, I'm assuming? All right. Consent agenda. We're gonna remove 4.6, 4.7, 4.8, 4.9, 4.10. That's gonna come at a later meeting.
Correct.
Yeah. So remove those, please. Lisa wants to pull 4.3 and 4.12 for discussion. So with all of those removed, can I get a motion to pass the rest?
I make a motion.
Motion by Lisa,
Support.
support by Lotiger. Any discussion?
On the,
Should we pass these, that we can just,
okay,
let's do it that way.
okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. 4.3?
4.3, so I just want to have clarification because we did do a lot of cutting. We did a lot of cutting in the sports and such. And I just wanted to have just discussion with, hiring somebody on for volleyball at 15 an hour and, just take a look at that and listen to the rationale of why we're doing that. Do we need that person?
I would assume that, because it says women's volleyball site manager, so I'm assuming that's the women's league.
Yeah, it was over
Community ed.
April 26,
Community ed?
2025.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Her job's already ended.
Does that money come out of community ed then to pay her?
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Okay,
Just
then,
wanted that clarification, and then, on 4.12, again, because of all the cuts, do we need this position? How essential is, what are we gonna, where are we gonna have this person?
Excellent question, Director Westby. This is in a really highly unusual situation. So we are leaving the NLC in a year. The NLC has told us the OT part of it, that they don't have enough people to serve Rock Ridge's kids with OT. So they are pulling back their OT services and telling us, you're not going to get charged for OT. We have to have an occupational therapist, however, because we have a number of kids that it's in their IEP. So by hiring an OT, it's actually better for you as Rock Ridge because you're not paying for the services through the NLC, or you were not paying for a computer occupational therapist who's talking to the kids via screen. It's a real person. So this actually is not gonna cost you money because you're not gonna get billed from the NLC for the OT services.
So it's funded, we get reimbursement for
From the
special
state of Minnesota,
education.
yeah, you'll get reimbursement from that.
How about, did we post for that
Yep.
position? Okay.
Okay, any other discussion? Can I get a motion to approve 4.3 and 4.12?
So moved.
Oh,
Motion by Reardon, support. Support by Holliger. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Reports, 5.05, Cross Anderson. You got leapfrog there, Mark.
Latest and greatest. I didn't get a chance to get a printed for the board, so you might want to just point out some of the different changes.
Okay.
Hello,
Hello.
I do see one new face, I think, from the last time I was here. So my name is Pete Albanen from Kraus Anderson, project manager on the Laurentian Elementary, the North Star Elementary, and now kind of the miscellaneous projects and wrapping things up. So I've been working with Patrick Gallagher on our team, and then Melissa from DSGW is here as well in case there's any specific design questions for the special ed remodel in the 1404 building. So we'll kind of show you a design update, kind of go through the floor plan if you guys have any questions. And then we'll talk about the project costs. And then we would ask for approval to move into the design development phase. So this is the schematic design phase right here, so. And then we're gonna do some informational slides after the approval is asked of you on the special ed side of the greenhouse and the athletics, just so you guys can know kind of where we're at with design and costs there. So special ed layout, up is north, on the special ed, or the 1404 building, sorry. So this is that big open space. This is currently a space that was used for the call center. It does have carpet and some rooms. So we are utilizing some of those existing rooms right here to save costs, so it's not a total gut job in there and demo of that, so we'll be able to use some of that. So it's broken up into two different spaces, and the demising wall for those are here. That runs north-south. And this is the Bridge to Independence side, which has some common spaces, some group rooms, a flex space here, Stephanie's office and conference room, and then a kitchen and life skills lab area. And they do have some separate bathrooms with the proper elements in there for access. The other side of the special ed's project is the setting 4. So this is made up of 4 different classrooms, a commons area, a couple of sensory rooms, a teacher break room, and some small breakout rooms. And then there is some separate bathrooms on this side. There is a large motor skills space over here. There's an existing garage space that we would turn into a large motor skills space. So the setting 4 would have a separate entrance into their side of the building from the south side of the 1404. And then the Bridge to Independence people will be using the east entrance. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Is this the whole building
Nope, this is just the south half. So there's an
Okay.
existing demising wall
or
here.
the south half? Okay.
Yeah, and then on the other half is all wide open right now.
Okay.
So. And I'll show you that at the end.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, so we did this estimate a while back, a few months ago, once we had the design, and we're just coming to you now with the costs. And hard costs are coming in at 2.1 million, and then our soft costs for those owner and administrative costs, I do have it kind of listed down here. So for design, the different testing required, all the commissioning for building envelope and mechanical, electrical, and some technology costs are in there as well. There is no costs included in this estimate for any new furniture. I think the intent was to use as much existing furniture that's currently being stored up at 1404. And then maybe just have to buy a few special pieces that, for those spaces. So a total cost of 2.5 million for the schematic design estimate of the special ed site. Another note I have here, the building purchase and then our pre-construction fee costs are not included in this. They were already paid for and done with, so. Okay. So you would need funding of the 2.5 million. Some avenues that have been used in the past are the LTFN, the capital or taconite funds. I'm not sure where the district is at with accumulating those funds, but that's the total that is required.
So members of the board, if you can keep that slide up there, if you would. So where this money would come from is three ways: long-term facilities maintenance, capital account, and the taconite funds. And this would, now you get money into each one of those accounts every single year. So what we would do is we'd use the money in the accounts for this year, next year, and if we needed to, a year after that, but we wouldn't need to use all of it. And this way, we would be able to pay for it. You don't need to tax anybody or do anything else. And this came up in the Buildings and Grounds Committee today earlier. So originally, so this is what it's going to cost to do the classrooms and the furniture is, we can take care of that. That'll be pretty easy and minor. Originally, you had an option to go to the NLC. And if you would have gone with the NLC with their building project, you would have needed to have taxed your taxpayers over 20 years at a certain rate. That rate over 20 years would have been $3.3 million that your taxpayers living within Rock Ridge would have had to have paid. Now, where this money is coming from, the 2.5 million, the long-term facilities maintenance and the capital account, about half of the money you get comes from the state of Minnesota in those two funds. So, and it ends up being, I did some more calculations after the Buildings and Grounds meeting. So 700,000 of that is probably closer to 900,000 is coming from the state of Minnesota, their general reserve, because they're giving you the money. The rest does come through levying your local taxpayer. So the reality of this is, by not joining the NLC, and I realize this is still a contentious topic for some people, but the decision has been made. Your local taxpayers really are the ones here who live within Rock Ridge. They're really paying $1.7 million of this. Whereas had you stayed in the NLC, they would be paying $3.3 million. You're building it, you're paying for it faster right away, and you're getting the building done faster than going through the NLC. So I don't know if that helps thinking about it, but this is where the total cost is going to be just to get it done. And can you wait? Not really. You could delay maybe max 6 months, but then your costs are just going to go up because of inflation. So we're suggesting that you just do it all at once, get it done, so you don't get bit by inflation. You'll have the revenues there over 2 years, 2+ years. So we believe we're going to be in good shape on that account.
Are there any outside spaces, future planned or anything like that, just that might come up in the future? Is everything inside, like playground or anything like that?
As of this minute, everything is inside. Now, we will have to talk about a playground in the future, and I know Stephanie's talking about grants. We're hoping to solve as much of that as we can through it, but this is the highest priority to get done. But we will have to, and one advantage of this plan is when you're looking when you're at the football field and you're looking at the 1404 building. So football field is to my back. The part of the building we're talking about is the part on the left. That's where the special ed areas are going to be. The area on the right, that's pretty much an open area. So one plus of having special ed there, they will be able to go through a door and use that whole indoor area because there's nothing in there right now. So we can bring in some equipment stuff for them to use. So they have a whole indoor, it's a gym, so to speak, that they can certainly use for a little while. And even down the road, when the other end gets built, they'll still be able to use that during the school day. So that's kind of an extra plus of that.
For sure, it'd be nice for them to have an outdoor area,
For sure.
in the next couple of years.
What have we used the taconite funds for in the past? Like what types of things do we use that fund for?
When Spencer Ani was the business manager, he used the taconite funds, because you get some money every year, to help pay for the Virginia gym remodel. And I'm using the word Virginia because that's where the gym is, attached to North Star. You upgraded the HVAC, you upgraded a whole bunch of things, and you used taconite money. And that's where he paid for that. Now Andrea comes on and is finishing that, paying the bills out of that. But it's very common for the districts to use that taconite money for building projects. You cannot use those three funds that you just saw in the prior one for salaries and things like that. There's some specific purposes that you have to use them for.
Wasn't some of the taconite funding starting to dwindle?
On a 3-year.
It's on a 3-year rotation, so it will go down a little bit, but because they average it, and you have some other mines that are in operation within the boundaries of your district, it's not gonna be as big of a hit as it is gonna be for some other districts. You're not gonna go down, you're not gonna lose all of it, you're not gonna go down $500,000 or something like that. You get about $600,000 a year in taconite revenue.
So prior to like the gym remodel, what would taconite funds be used for? Like, so say we didn't do this, what would we potentially use
Roof,
it for?
windows, things like that. That's what the districts would have used them on in the past.
Buses probably.
Buses, they could have used them on maybe, yep.
So, Dr. Schmidt, you had mentioned schedule, so we did put a milestone schedule together. Assuming that we would get approval to move into the design development phase, we're looking at an early June completion of those drawings. And then we would do another DD estimate and present to you, so that would be the second board meeting in June. We would come back to you and present the number again, just to make sure we're staying on track, similar to the previous projects. And then middle of July, we would complete the construction documents and then send them out to bid for about 3 weeks and start that mid-August timeframe. And we were given a date, or a drop dead date of July 1st of 2026 that it would have to be completed. So it shouldn't take that long if we start in August, but that's our drop dead date.
So we have these funds in place right now. We have what is needed right now to be able to do these things.
You have the funds to start. You will have you'll get another load of funds into those three accounts next year. And so we'll use those, because if you look, that thing is not going to be done until June of 2026. So you'll have some bills that aren't coming in for a long time. And then we'll be able to pay those off. So as of this minute, no, you don't, but you are going to have the funds for that. But the advantage of doing this, you're not borrowing, you're not asking taxpayers for anything else, and you got to get this done because the special ed kids, they're coming to you.
Well, yeah, I think because the past board had passed this to get out of the NLC, we knew, they must have known that we had to do something with some buildings, so yeah, we gotta do it.
But again, the past boards, the feedback we were getting was that our special ed department felt like it would be better for our students to do this.
Sure.
So, I mean, we made those decisions based on the information we were given to, so.
So if there's no other questions on the design or budget.
Any questions for
we would-
Pete?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Any questions for Pete at all?
All right, we would like to ask for approval of moving into the design development phase.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Reardon,
I'll second.
support by Bonner. Any discussion? And there's a chance that there's some left in the construction account that can maybe once the dust settles.
It could happen, but we're being very conservative with that.
Okay.
Pete, do you have any idea about what's left from the the high school and the schools in our construction budget? I think last time you were here, I don't know who it was, if it was you or someone else who had said we had a certain amount left, like 1.3 million. Do you have any idea where we're at right now?
No, unfortunately not at this time. That is in the district's hands right now of where all those funds are at. So,
I can tell you what happened, board members, on that one though, is because you did hear an earlier figure of 1.2 million, somewhere around there. And that was because of the taconite fund and the capital account, which together those equal about 1.2 million. So at various times, you could have had somebody say 1.2, they were talking about, depending how you move it and where the bills are paid from, these are all coming from construction type bills. None of this can be used for salaries. None of it can be used for employees in that sense. So that's probably what they were talking about in the 1.2 million, is the taconite and the capital fund. Because you can use those for building funds. And then in addition, Andrea is doing what a good business manager is doing. She's being conservative on this.
Good. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
This next part won't cost us anything.
the next two parts.
Floor's still yours, Pete.
Okay, just for informational purposes only, we were approached by the IRPS for a greenhouse project over on that end of the building at 1404. So we've been working with them with their current design and then putting a cost together to see what that would cost. So to kind of go through that, that's kind of what it will look like. Pretty neat.
How big is that?
60 by 16. So 60 feet long, 16 feet wide, translucent panels. We do have metal panel and metal roof siding included in the cost right now. And then just some other views, elevation views. And then this is the underground system. I'm not gonna try to talk smart about this, Keith, so maybe when you come up after you can explain a little bit more, but it's a pretty neat system, and I'll let Keith talk about it. So overall cost, total funds raised by the IRPS was just under 120,000, which 15 of that is slated for curriculum only, so can't be used for the construction costs. So that leaves 105 available right now. Our rough budget hard costs coming in at 180,000 from a couple of contractor budgets that we got, plus some cost history. Then on the soft cost side of things, pretty low on that side. So basically most of it's design and then a little bit of testing and maybe a couple tables and the FF&E. So pretty minor there. And I'll go through what that design cost is as well. We got a proposal from DSGW so you can see the breakdown. So total construction cost, 235,000. So as you can see, there would be another 130,000 approximately needed to complete that project. One note here down in red, that would make a great opportunity for CTE classes and Greg Foster's group, if that's an option. So we'll be looking at those different options with Keith and his group and see if we can get that project done. On the design side of things, I broke it out, total costs for the design. So right up to here is through DSGW and their consultants. And then we also got a quote from, NTS for the geotech report. So total cost for design is $45,000, and that's a part of that 55 right there. So you ask, well, why do we have to design this little greenhouse? It's because it's on school property and it has to be a part of a state plan review. Similar to the dugouts that we did or the storage buildings, all that had to get fully designed and get state plan approval, state inspections, because it's on school property. So that's the reason behind that. Any questions on the greenhouse? Did you want to add anything, Keith?
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, come on, answer that. Thanks. I'm gonna put it somewhere.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I'm Keith Peterson. I met most of you, but been here a few times before, kind of working on this project. That's okay. That movie started back in 2021. And just for the people that don't know, that whole idea was like, some of these schools have built these greenhouses, and we thought about this hands-on learning, this academies model, and we came up or found about this idea for this new style of greenhouse called a deep winter greenhouse. Because traditional greenhouses are just too expensive, right, for northern Minnesota to work. But the University of Minnesota has been working for years on different designs. And the benefit, why we thought this would work at the school, is because the cost to sort of maintain and run the greenhouse is really pretty low. So it actually just heats up during the day. That warm air comes in. Even at 20 below, if you got a sunny day, it's amazing how much heat the greenhouse will generate. And as the heat rises in the ceiling, there's a thermostat that'll turn the fan on, and it pulls that heat down under the ground, like 4 feet under, and just warms the earth. It doesn't have to be anything special, just warms it up. And then as the temperature drops during the night, you have another kind of just a radon fan that turns back on and pulls that heat back out to keep the greenhouse. You're not keeping it at 75, but you're keeping it warm enough to sort of keep a lot of your cold tolerant plants growing. So the architect who worked with us, he felt like average out over the year, the cost would be about $200 a month for everything: utilities, water, heat. Most of the time, there's one in Bemidji attached to the food shelf there, and they almost never have to use their accessory heat, even when it's really cold. Again, because when it's cold, it's sunny. It's when you get those cold but cloudy stretch period where you end up having to use accessory heat. But most of these greenhouses is very, very minimal accessory heat. So then our idea was, like, if we could just get this built and we could get the science classes to come in, the culinary arts classes to come in, and there's a bunch of us who grew up knowing nothing about how to grow a carrot. And I feel like there's a lot of people in this area, right, with food insecurity that have no idea. My grandma talked about growing up in Ely and how like every single family had a little garden in their backyard. And so we just had this kind of idea that maybe we could get a couple hundred kids a year through this building, that hopefully will be there for 30 years, and we teach these kids a little bit how to grow, bring in the science classes and talk about botany. The gal who teaches some of the indigenous stuff talked about growing traditional herbs. The culinary arts teacher talked about maybe growing some of those food, maybe a business class that actually grows salads and sells them. And then they talked about maybe work study, and initially we're going to build it right next to the school, but with the 1404 project, we're thinking maybe we could save some money. And then those Northland Learning Center kids who do well with hands-on stuff, we'd have another kind of ability for them to sort of step out of their classroom and do hands-on stuff. So, and then we're just thinking, like, in general, if you care for earth or you grow a plant, like, you think a little bit about the environment you live in, and that's for us, like, just for trying to help kids have a little bit more connection with that stuff. And so in our mind, we thought it was this would be a good addition to the school, a thing to add. And a little bit embarrassed to say, like, we underestimated a lot. I just didn't realize the plans come from the University of Minnesota. In my brain, they were done and we had to just build it. But we found out that they're not stamped from the University of Minnesota. Even though they're published and go through structural engineering, they're not stamped, and we have to have them stamped, and that's that $40-some thousand. And again, for my simple brain, it's like a 16 by 60 pole building. There's no rooms, there's no bathrooms, but it still is really expensive to do it right, and we have to do it right for the safety of the kids. So we're kind of back a little bit at the drawing board. Like I said, we've raised $120,000. we really wanted to raise money to cover the cost of like greenhouse coordinator and curriculum development, partly because you knew the budget is, you guys are struggling with that. And we didn't want to put on this building that then the school has to pay all these extra costs to maintain. And there's no question that there's costs, right? You build a building anywhere and there's going to be costs at the school to heat it and to maintain it. But we're hoping to raise enough money to cover the costs to hire that person, sort of like you would a coach that would do a garden club, would help, the third grade teacher get the supplies so she could grow, flowers for Mother's Day. That was our goal, was to sort of raise that money. We thought we were there and then started learning that we're probably not there. I did meet with Greg Foster and he is interested. He feels like it would be a great project, but not something he can commit to like at the moment. So he's looking at it, but that would save us quite a bit of money. We're thinking about the idea of maybe trying to get, since the 1404 building construction is going on, to see if we can get the foundation in, get the water and the power stubbed over there, and then continue to try and raise money to pay for it. There's a similar greenhouse being built in Babbitt, not on the school, and the costs are a lot less, like half of what it costs to build it here. We just didn't realize how much it is. So I need to meet with my board. The people, the volunteers have been working on this on Wednesday, and we just need to talk a little bit about kind of what we do, whether we have the energy to keep pushing forward and trying to fundraise more. And I did just want to bring it to you guys because I have 3 kids in the school. My wife works in the school. This is a hard time. I get it. A lot of teachers and coaches, this is not an easy time. And I don't want, the board did approve an MOU and it's signed and it says if we raise the money, then the greenhouse has to be built. But I also just want the board's just a sense of kind of where we're at. Is this a project that we keep pushing on? Is this just not a great time to keep pushing forward with this project? I can't give the money to you, right? It's all grant money or private donations for a greenhouse. So if we don't build the greenhouse, $120,000 goes back. We spent a little bit on grant writer, but it basically goes back. Most of the money is to the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. And it's not like we've gotten the money. It's like they'll give us the money once we spend the money. So, so it's a little tricky because it's quite a bit of money. I'd love to be able to sort of get this on the school. There's a program in Aurora that's like, we talked to the gal there, the classes are totally full. There's a greenhouse in Alexandria, some of the colleges are doing this. So I think there's benefits. And I think when I look at like the total cost of what we're paying for different buildings, it's a very small, drop in the bucket, and the cost to maintain it and keep it going. And part of me thinks you get 200 kids through the year for the next 30 years, you're talking, 6,000 kids that are going to get this experience. And in my brain, it seems worth it to keep pushing, but I want to just be honest and transparent that we're a little bit of a crossroads, and I'm not 100% sure what we do. I think there's room on those costs to probably save a little bit of money and bring those costs down, but there's no question that if we're gonna build this, raise more funds. So I guess I'm open to questions, and then
I think it's a great project. I thank you for all you've done, and hope you guys keep going. I think it's a great project.
Okay, thanks.
I have a question. Is there a timeline for your grants where they disappear?
Great question. Yeah, July of 2027 for the Minnesota Department of Agriculture grant. That's $90,000. So that's the big grant. That's most of our money. We've gotten money from Elks Club and private people and a bunch of small grants that kind of makes up the rest of it. So that stuff there isn't a timeline, but the $90,000 that grant has to be completed by July of 2027.
Completed or started?
Completed. The project's supposed to be completed. We could ask for an extension, but we had 3 years. We got that grant last summer, and so it was a three-year timeline.
Okay.
So, yeah, we could look at talking to them about extending that, and I can look at that exactly. Good question, though. Yeah, that's one thing we're kind of up against.
I would think that, because you said that we would have to do some plumbing or something towards that. Would that work in well with doing the 1404 for the sped part? I mean, should that all be done at the same time? So at least something is in place for the possible greenhouse?
That is an option that the district can choose to do if you would like some of that work as part of the.
Because I'm just thinking, what
project.
is it gonna cost us to do it, in 2 years or in a year?
Right.
If we had that in place at least, I don't know what that cost would be, but maybe you could find out for us and so it's in place. We don't have to go backwards and start all over again.
That's right. I kind of feel like, some of the grants, if we can spend some of that money now, right, and use that money that we have, even if we don't have a full building, I do think over the next, it might take a couple more years, but I think we'll be able to get there, eventually if we keep working on it, and just keep trying, I think we'll get there. There's money out there. This is kind of a popular thing in the moment, across the country, so I think we can keep pushing away. But yeah, I mostly just wanted to, appreciate just giving a background, letting them know kind of where we're at. We kind of thought this was gonna be a go, but it's a little bit more hesitant, and I did just wanna, with transparency, I do I feel the pain of the board. It's just a tough spot to be in, and I don't wanna, the board's not behind it, or I don't wanna build something that all some people are saying. I know we'll get some pushback no matter what, right? This is another building, and it's a tough time to build another building. I think the benefits are there, but some people are gonna disagree.
But you've done all the work though. I
Yeah.
mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's not.
And it is a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the carpenters union that helped with our press boxes? We checked with them to see if they'd be willing to.
We have not checked with them.
No, we have, so now that we know that Plan A isn't working quite the way we wanted it to, now we go to Plan B, C, and D and see what else we can do. Like, can the kids help build part of it? Is there another group who can build part of it to reduce the cost? And still, because it would be really cool having it with the Career Academy, because agribusiness
The board-
is huge.
The board likes the project,
I think
I do.
everybody does. I
Yes.
do. I think it's an awesome I think we're
Yes.
probably all behind it. It's just
Yeah.
like right now, it's probably not a great time.
I understand, yeah.
But, we don't know what the future holds. And I will say, I know you said you're fundraising, but I do think the community could really get behind this project. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity for fundraising for that.
Yeah, we've really gone after grants and then some, more local, but we do have a letter that's ready to go out. So there are some opportunities and these grants come up. So I appreciate that. I think it helps us just kind of, I wasn't sure if we were kind of at a point where this project wasn't a great fit, and I understand the moment, but hopefully we can get part of it done, and then over the next couple of years, we'll keep working on it.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Thanks for your
I think
time.
it's a great fit. It's just making it happen. That's, yeah.
Do you think it's a good idea to get a bid on what it would cost to put in the piping or heat,
sub it in, yeah.
whatever we need to have so it's ready?
Well, we could, what we probably need, the board is Keith, you have a board, right? Let that board meet now that they know all this, the costs, everything, and have them talk and discuss, and, because they're the ones raising the money, see if they're comfortable doing something like that. And then we'll talk some more about that, but that, we might have to do something like that, where we kind of, if you say yes as a board, we build it in phases over a couple of years.
Yeah.
Piecemeal.
I think we definitely don't want to lose it. I think we're
Yeah,
I
all
agree.
behind it.
And
If they're willing, we're
Great.
willing.
Yeah,
Thanks,
yep,
that's good.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
That's good.
especially when you have that grant money and we could use some of
Yeah,
that to
yeah.
do this part.
Yep,
So,
I think so, and the long-term cost should be okay, but yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for your time and thanks for your support, and thanks for serving, this is not
Yeah,
an easy
thanks,
job, I
Keith.
appreciate it.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, last piece of information, I don't remember if you've actually seen this updated floor plan or not as a whole group. We were tasked to put a schematic design together for the athletic side and put a cost to it. There's no approval tonight to move forward or anything, this is just informational to kind of see what came up with the committee. So everything in this area here is turf, so indoor turf. Obviously you see the logo there. The band you see around is a different color than the rest of the interior turf. There's a couple pickleball courts laid out over here. Melissa, help me out, what was this here? Was that the
Climbing
rock-
wall.
Climbing wall, the rock climbing wall. And then the golf simulators over here where there's some existing offices right now. So some demolition would have to take place. And then the major cost of the project would be the locker rooms, both men's and women's locker rooms here. It's very similar to the high school locker rooms in the Rockbridge High School. Some of the space would remain as is. There's a break room here, some bathrooms, so kind of a maintenance area space. And then some storage here, lockable storage as well. And if you can picture, these are the overhead doors you see as you're coming up Progress Parkway.
What kind of room is in that open space? I mean, What kind of distances? Can you tell me that?
Oh, I wanna say it's, the total space I thought was 70 by, no, sorry, 90 by 140. Like that.
How tall are the ceilings? Do you know offhand?
It is a single slope, so this side's a little bit higher. To the bottom of the roof joist, I wanna say it was 18 feet here, and roughly 15 on this end, 16. I'm totally shooting from the hip.
Winging it.
Trying to remember, so it was a long time ago. But those are some rough numbers. So costs, no funds at the time, at this time, so fundraising was talked about previously. And just to keep in mind, this project can be something that you don't have to do all at once, you can piecemeal it together as people donate or fundraising happens and you get money for golf simulators or something, you can put them in, so. It's not something you have to do all at once. So total, all-in package was $2 million for the hard costs and soft costs. Now, if you do it in stages, some of the soft costs is gonna go away because you're not gonna have a construction manager, you're gonna be hiring direct, and so you'll save some money there. Yeah. That was it on the athletic side.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
any questions for Pete?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Longer than I thought.
Thanks.
We'll see ya.
I was kind of off the target when I started the meeting. I didn't do roll call. I noticed that, and
Oh,
everybody's here. Let the record reflect that minus our student rep. So 5.2.
5.1.
Is not there.
5.1.
5.1.
Yeah, I was at 5.2. I just kind of noticed that she's not here, so I realized I didn't do roll call. So everybody's here minus Cora, so no 5.2. Mark, your turn. 5.1.
Good evening. I'll just touch briefly on high school staffing for next year. I apologize, I wasn't at the meeting. At the last one, I wasn't able to be here. But high school's a little different animal when we start talking about staffing. So I'm just going to break it kind of down by departments. So if you want more specifics as to what specific people would be teaching, I certainly can get into that. But so really what I'm going to quick share is just what the changes are, so where people are kind of changing a department or who's going to be in different departments. So start with the cores. In the science department, Janine Bauman will be moving out of facts for a small portion of her day, a 0.4, into some science. In math, Jess Cordicus was part-time math, part-time My Futures. She will shift to full-time math. That kind of covers the cores. For some of the electives, Rita Forsman, who was full-time elementary, will be half-time choir at the high school. Abby Warner is one of our world language teachers. This past year, she was in the elementary at a 0.6. She will now be moving to the 0.6 My Futures. And that's where Jess Cordicus was, so Jess will move more to math and Abby will cover more of the My Futures. The ALP, Tricia Fierce, who was a counselor at the high school, was penciled into the ALP. You approved her resignation earlier in the board meeting. So currently the ALP is an open position. That is a 1.0. That position was a resignation from earlier in the year, which is why Tricia was moved into that position. And then kind of some other changes that are pretty specific and different for the high school. Paul Brainerd is currently helping out as Dean of Students. He will move back into Fayette next year. In our counseling office, with the reduction to the elementary counselors, Tara Ferke and Tessa Peterson will move to the high school. And currently, Alyssa Bowe is still at the high school in the counseling position, but depending on what happens later in the board meeting with some administrative decisions and things like that, there is going to have to be decisions made with Jill Oja. If Jill is not in her career position, she would move back into counseling, which then leaves 4 counselors, so then we would have to do some shifting again with counseling staff. And for the most part, that covers the changes. A lot of the changes at the high school were reductions. So, we reduced in several areas. So that's where the real changes came. Not a lot of different people at different locations. So, questions you have for me?
Any questions for Mark?
How have behaviors been this year? We're getting to the end of the year. We talked about phones. Just kind of bring us through and where we're at with even the less
Behaviors
staff.
that were much improved up until probably about 2 weeks ago. Behaviors are ramping a little bit now, ramping up. And they probably are in every building, in every school across the state. Again, it's that 5% of the student body that we deal with 95% of the day. And there's just some challenges, but certainly, I would say as a whole, far better than a year ago. We've made a lot of progress and still have a ways to go, but certainly it's better than it was.
Tools in place, teachers feel supported, that we're following through on things with that 5%.
I believe so, and you've probably heard that there is a true need for 2 deans of students, and if you haven't heard that, you could probably ask any teacher at the high school. The loss of a dean would dramatically change what happens at the high school. The high school principal will struggle because it's going to take 2 people just to take care of discipline at the high school. Our 2 deans often don't get a lunch. They don't get preps. They are working from the moment they step in the building till the moment they leave, dealing with behaviors. And any little incident, or a major incident, if there would be an altercation with 2 students, it could take a whole day just to go through all of that, leaving, then one person dealing with the rest of the building, things like that. So that would be my biggest concern is with 1 dean would be a challenge. Certainly, they will do the best they can, obviously, but as a whole, I do believe our deans are doing what they can to follow up. They follow up with teachers and follow up with all the parents when they need to.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Yeah, actually, I have a question with that. So at what point do you get involved with behavioral issues? Is it all in the deans or?
Majority of it's deans. If it becomes something more major, or if it's a suspension, those types of things, the administrator has to have their name on it. So the deans do a lot of it. I'm not going to lie, they do the majority of it. But anytime that they're not there, I certainly will step in. Where it gets more to me is where there becomes some student staff issues. Anytime it becomes a staff related issue of any sort, whether it's an accusation of any kind, then it comes over to me directly, automatic, because the deans are their peers, are the other teachers' peers. So for sure that, and then anytime it becomes major, if it's a major incident, anytime law enforcement would maybe need to be called, anytime there would be an expulsion, anything like that, that would be really big, is 100% would fall under the administrator.
Lastly, with the changes, are we close to this, getting a schedule done for the fall?
I'm close. I continue to run it. I'm ready to throw Power School out the window as of about 20 minutes ago because everything was running great. Now suddenly I have an error and I didn't even touch that course where I'm getting the error on. So, no, we will have a schedule. I'm planning on hopefully committing it Wednesday, and then it's just a matter of adjusting. The best I've gotten is just over 800 students of the 1,020 with full complete schedules. So we're getting over 80%. And then about the next 10%, 12% of those just have one hole in their schedule. So We're getting close. I think within, like I said, by Wednesday, I hope to commit it, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Any other questions for Mark? John? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you know, Mark, I was gonna ask, there's a hire on here for an additional special ed teacher?
That's what I didn't,
Yeah.
we did have Jace Friedlieb is currently at North Star, and he will be coming to the high school to fill that position.
Oh,
And then there is a hire at North Star, current posting for a hire at North Star to fill that position.
oh, so that's who this person on the agenda is for. The special,
I would, that's me, I guess, on that one.
okay,
We
just,
just accepted today, so we didn't have time to get it on this board agenda.
okay.
It'll be on the next meeting.
Okay, well, it just says is a proposed staff list for the high school, so that's why I was asking Mark about it, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. 5.2, no student rep. 5.3, Parkview, Sheena.
Good evening, board members. Lots going on, of course, at Parkview. It's end of the year and it seems like, I don't know that there's a normal day in our building, but lots of things that have happened prior to that I'll talk about quickly first before what's coming up. Just last week, we had big truck night at the Parkview. We've had big truck night before, run through ECFE, and we kind of extended it this year to all of our elementary kids. And it was amazing, the trucks and the businesses that were willing to bring in big rigs for our students and community to see was just flat amazing, and very appreciative to all of them that they're willing to share their expertise with us and see the kids' smiles on their face when they see that huge ladder or the crane up in the air and things like that. So we appreciate that. We had our spring sing the first week in May on the Friday. Ms. Forsman and Ms. Spots did a wonderful job with the kindergarten, first and second graders. We had a lot of people there, so that was great. We also, I think I had mentioned before, our students raised that money for our fundraiser, the glow run that we did, and so part of that, one of the treats that the kids got was a bouncy house party. So we held our bouncy house party back last week, and we kind of tied it in with our kindergarten roundup. So we had our bounce house party all day, and then we were able to keep those bounce houses up for kindergarten roundup. We had a great turnout at kindergarten roundup. We are a little, I think 51 right now currently registered, which is very low for us at this point in the year for kindergarten, but we did pull in 10 registrations that we didn't know about that night. So it was nice to see people show up for that, hoping to get some more kindergartners for next year. When we look ahead, we are in the process right now of benchmark testing for our final time in the school year. So I'm excited to see the scores and where our students started and where they are in the growth that they've made. That'll finish up at the end of this week. And we also tried something new this year. Mr. Manny and his third grade team, when we're transitioning our second graders, we have found in the past that it has been somewhat of a challenge for our kids. You know, we used to always go visit for an hour, but they decided this year to take our second graders class by class for one half a day. So they got to be a third grader for half of a day. They got to have lunch with the third graders, travel through the classrooms, go to specialists and things with the third grade classes. And those third grade teachers have done a wonderful job, including our second graders and giving them that experience. So that's been going well. Our third class went today, and we have one more class going on Thursday to visit the North Star. And the kids are really excited to get over to the North Star and into the new building. So that's been nice, and thanks to those third grade teachers. Coming up, we have a kindergartner who won a contest through the North Star Credit Union, and part of that contest was to bring Cook's Country Connections to our building. So they are coming on this Thursday for 2.5 hours with some of their animals for all of our students to enjoy. So that'll be fun for the kids to see some of those animals. Our field trips are also coming up. Pre-K is tomorrow. They're going to Cook's Country Connection, so they get to see the animals twice this week. Our kindergarten classes are going to Mr. Ed's farm. That is also this week. First grade goes last week in May to the Bear Center. And then our second graders, they did make their trip to the Rife Center. They got to see a magician, and in fact, one of our teachers was actually up on stage and she was floating in air, so that was a really cool thing for them. And that was that trip that we ended up actually canceling for state basketball, but they made it, and Mr. Bob got us the buses back. We did a quick transition. It all worked out great. They're also gonna go downtown and visit the businesses downtown. I think they could visit 3, 4, 5 businesses in the downtown area as our second graders and travel through that. So, like I said, lots of stuff going on. Couple days left of school, but it's going great. Questions for me?
Any question for Sheena?
No, sounds great, sounds fun.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Moving along, 5.4, superintendent report.
Thank you, Director Yuan, members of the board. A couple things to update you on. One is, let's start with the second roundabout. There are 2 roundabouts actually that are going to be built eventually down by Highway 53. The big one will be started after school is out, and they'll do some things to close the road down. That's the big one. There is a second one that was supposed to be built, so when you're going through the roundabout and you're going up Progress Parkway, and when you get to White Cedar Drive, you turn left, there's the baseball, softball fields. Before you turn left, there was supposed to be another roundabout right there. Here's what happened. It has been delayed because when you're coming up Progress Parkway, before you get to White Cedar Drive, that goes to the baseball, softball field. If you look to the right, you'll see some rocks. There's a rock formation that goes back. Well, as part of the process that they need to do for the highways, they need to send an archaeologist into there and take some rock samples, which they did. And they found something. They found 2 things. One is they apparently found some shavings from rocks that indicated that someone, we're talking a long time ago, had been there shaving rocks off for some purposes. We don't know. Arrowheads, spears, pottery, we're not know, but there was evidence that something had been happening there. Then there's another site down by where the old Evelyn dump is, a little further south. They found evidence of campfires, of cooking something, and I'm not talking about 20 years ago, I'm talking about a long time ago. So what they have to do is they have to reroute that road and move the roundabout west a little bit more towards Slumberland. And they could not get the design and everything done by the end of the year in time to build it. So the second roundabout, they're planning on doing that next summer. So 1 roundabout will be done, but just want to update you that the second one will be done next year because they need to avoid those areas.
Because they're sacred.
Yes, and they need to investigate more to find out what was there, what was happening. So I assume we'll get an update down the road about a little more information that might be there.
I was hoping you'd say they found gold. or something,
Me
but-
too.
That would have been even better had they found it a little further east, so it's your
Oh,
goal.
that property.
I don't, okay, I know this has nothing to do with you or whatever, but I just don't understand that roundabout anyway, just for people, like, there's no, it doesn't make sense to me, but
It doesn't make sense to me unless you can connect White Cedar.
that's, yeah,
Yeah,
right.
it doesn't
That's
make
what I'm
any sense
saying.
to
Otherwise, you're just,
Have a 2-way
let's
roundabout.
go in a circle, and then we'll go in another circle.
Yes, that is exactly what's gonna
It
happen.
just seems weird, I don't know.
But there's also another road that's gonna come in there from, they don't have the money for it yet, but from the Gilbert Road that goes to Gilbert, there'll be another road built which will hook up to Progress Parkway, as it's called right now.
There's gonna be a
At
road
that
going to the
roundabout?
south.
Yes,
Okay,
Right.
so I was thinking it would be up, okay.
it's gonna be
All right.
very close to that
That's from
roundabout.
the station 44 or whatever.
Can we
Highway
just say
37.
we don't need that second roundabout? Is that
I think it's coming.
Is that to alleviate some of the traffic that would come from that direction?
Yes, and so there's not a T-bone intersection at that, or crash at that one too. Trying to soften it so it works.
We'll catch a break one of these years.
So just want to update you on that. Second thing, talk about, Director Bonner brought up the student handbook part. So I'll be meeting with the principals here shortly, meeting this week. We'll talk about the handbook because those always get updated. And I know you want to talk about the handbook, what's in the handbook. And typically, when they're done in August, they all come to the school board and you see the recommended, meaning the principals, here's what they've done. And they've gone through it with their teachers and they've made changes. This is what they're recommending. So the final version you're going to see in August. And then you have to approve those anyway. So that's the process. So I'll start with the principals. We'll meet and talk. And then I guess you have to tell me, board, how involved do you want to be on the changes in the handbooks? Do you want to sit down with the principals, or do you want to just see at the end product, or what are you thinking you want?
Well, I remember when we were working with the chair, organization, whatever, there were some concerns, and we had said that, yes, some things need to be updated. So that's my concern, that we have it updated.
Yep. So if you do nothing, the principals and I will go through and with the teachers, make those changes and corrections, and then you'll see those changes.
Okay.
And then we'll probably talk to somebody from representatives to see if they're okay with the changes in there also.
Okay. Like with Greg or somebody.
Yep. In addition to that, referendum. You've told me you would like some talk time on the possibility of a referendum. And I'm going to suggest that you have one board meeting in June, and this is a work study session. So you have a meeting scheduled at 6. I'm going to suggest that, what do you think about meeting at 5 o'clock before the regular meeting, having a work study where we talk about the referendum, we'll get some updated numbers from Ellers, and then tell you, here's what needs to be done, if you want to go in that direction, and then have some discussion about, then you have your regular board meeting at 6 o'clock. Does that work for you?
That was
Yeah,
the first
works for
meeting
me.
or the second meeting?
The one
We
on
only
the-
have one.
You only have one in June.
Oh, okay.
I think
What's
it's-
the
I
date?
thought we only had one in July.
That's what I thought.
That's usually what it is.
Usually it's 2 in June, 1 in July.
Yeah.
I guess the 16th. That wait a minute, first board meeting would be the 9th.
Let's see, okay.
So does that work to have a work study at 5?
Works for me.
Works for me.
Me
The
too.
9th.
On the 16th or the 9th?
Ninth.
The 9th.
June 9th.
Do we have a meeting on the
Both
23rd?
had 2 in June.
Yeah, you're right.
We have.
Yeah, so I was wondering
I
which,
I misspoke. You just can't get good superintendents. The 9th.
The 9th.
So we'll go ahead and set that up.
Yep.
and then maybe let us know if we have 2 in June and 1 in July. 'Cause-
You do have one in July.
There's only one in July.
Okay, 14th or the 28th, we don't know which one.
Usually the 14th, I think is the first, I think.
14th.
We wouldn't have that one.
No,
That's when you would have.
that's the only one you have in July.
Oh, that's the only one we have, okay.
Then last thing, board members, I want to go over is what is the Leader in Me program? You don't have to act on anything, but I know the question has come up, and at the June board meeting, the first one, we do need to talk a little bit about some software programs. This have to do with the return on educational equity, and this is an area there's no rush on that right now, but because I've gotten questions about what is Leader in Me, so you have a packet in front of you. I'm going to quickly go through some of the main things so you know what it is, or have a general idea about what it is. And so I labeled them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because these have come from different places. So look for when I'm talking about a certain page, just look for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in blue ink at the bottom. The whole purpose of Leader in Me is to teach leadership skills to our students, K-12. That's it. That's the main purpose. On page 2, you can see, like, where did this come from? Did someone just make this up? This has actually been long-standing. It all started Stephen Covey's seminal work, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. If you've been a business person or gone through, you've seen this book, read this book, it's probably one of the most prominent business books as far as personal and organizational improvement in the last 30 years. He took that book, and then one of his sons wrote a book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. And there was a whole bunch of other stuff coming out from the Covey at that point in time, too. And then in 2008, they turned that into Leader in Me. So this Leader in Me is all based on 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So this one has been around for about 35 years or so. Then I'm going to page 3. So why in the world would a school be even paying attention to 7 Habits of Highly Effective People as it works in the school setting? So there's 3 columns in here. And you've probably seen a lot of these things, heard people around here say, in the red on the left, what do parents and teachers and business people want? What do they want? What do you want in your leaders? And you can see what they want. And we've been in meetings where we've heard the local business people say, you want someone who knows how to set goals, someone who's organized, someone who knows that they have to show up on time, they have to leave, someone who can plan. I need someone who can work with the team. I don't need someone who just works off by themselves. You know, I need someone who can solve problems, who can get along with other people. They're not causing conflict with everybody. And someone who is creative, but also can use analytic skills and figure things out for themselves. The middle column is, we brought this up 7 years ago, where remember my extremely well-drawn Rembrandt-esque drawings on 21st century life skills. This is part of what we're trying to do with the Career Academy. We all know that being smart isn't enough. We also know that kids need to have social skills. They need to have some other skills. Because how do we know this? We all know somebody who is very smart, and they might even be the smartest in the class or the smartest adult in the room, but you want one in charge of anything. Well, we want our kids to be smart and to have the leadership skills to have both. And so you can see what all the 21st century skills are. And then on the right in the blue, I won't go this column right, this is where the 7 habits of highly effective people line up. So we're doing something that parents want, business people want, in line with 21st century skills. That's where the 7 habits comes in. On the next page, you're probably wondering, Schmidt, what are the 7 habits? I don't know what they are. Here's what they are. And this is something with the Leader in Me, what the teacher's working with the kids all the way from K all the way up. Now, some grade levels have started this, and so they've done more of it than what other grade levels. And in some grade levels, it looks different because you can't do the same thing with first graders as you would with ninth graders. Very quickly, we want our kids to be proactive. We also want them to begin with the end in mind. You know, that's the whole goal, the vision. Where am I going? So they're going in the right direction. We want them to do the important things first, so they're not dawdling and ignoring the important things. We want them to think win-win. That means that it's not I win, you lose. It's not I lose, you lose. It's, hey, come on, let's come up with something where everybody wins. The other one is, this is a big one. This is seek first to understand, then to be understood. This is a big one because a lot of kids struggle with this one, because when problems show up, rather than doing what we think should be done, how about if we just first try and understand what the other person is saying or is thinking? What are they thinking? So rather than to just blurt your opinion out, listen to what someone else is saying. Synergize, that just means, hey, can't we come up with something that works with everyone? And then sharpen the saw means, yeah, we got to do some work to keep going and getting better. Next one, you can skip that one. It's what highly defective people do. So if you want to have a little mirth and fun, go ahead and read that one on your own. Number 6, what is the core paradigm of it? And this all started with the Career Academy. Because whenever we went out and we said this 7 years ago, because I know we were in up-teen meetings, and some of you were in those same meetings, that we wanted a career academy where kids didn't just sit in rows and do nothing else. We wanted kids to actually get out and interact with employers, employers interact with them, so kids had a way better idea of what their options were. Well, but that also involves kids got to know how to act when they're not in the classroom. When they go to an employer, how do they act? What are they doing? And so this is just a little of this. The key tenets are leadership is everyone. We want all kids to be a leader, not just some. We have this misconception that only a certain percent of people are leaders. All kids are leaders. And we also have this misconception that only a few kids are gifted. No, everyone is gifted. They're all gifted differently, so you have to think very differently. And then we want to have people realize that to improve schools, people think the system needs to change first. Well, you can wait a long time if you're waiting for someone else to come along and change the system. How about if we start doing something first? And then who's in charge of student learning? We want kids, we heard this from business people all the time, all over the place. They want kids who can think. They don't want employees that you have to spoon feed information to. So we need to produce students that they can think for themselves, they can take control of their own learning. And then the last one on this page this is the academic achievement. We do know that one of our core jobs is academic achievement. The reality is that we also need kids who have some skills in some other areas. So we're creating smart people who also have social skills and personal skills and leadership skills. That's what that one is about. On the next page, I'm gonna just take a look at it. This is all about leadership, culture, and academics. Those are the three main tenets. On the next page there, these are just some examples they do with leadership, culture, and academics. It is the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Covey wrote a lot of stuff. Another one was the speed of trust. How do you create a culture of trust? And then on the academics achievement goals, the 4 disciplines of execution. I'm going to use this example. You're going, well, what is that? Because kids always have goals. I'm going to use North Star as an example. North Star is a good example of a building that started using some of Covey's Leader in Me with the 40X, with the goals of kids having jobs and duties and responsibilities so that they are actually learning some skills and some leadership skills. And if you go to North Star, and this happens in some other buildings also, but I'm just highlighting North Star here, those kids know what to do. They are not having an adult say, do this, this, and this, because they trained them to do this. That's where this is coming from. And we are looking to expand that to a higher degree in the other buildings, including the high school. On the last page that I'll talk about, this kind of puts it all together here with what the Leader in Me is trying to do, K-12. Because again, we're looking at all kids be leaders, not some of them. We're also looking that all kids have their own skills and their own genius in themselves. We have a lot of kids who, they believe they're nothing. They believe working hard isn't important. They believe other kids are smarter than them. So why should I even bother trying? In addition to this, the change in culture, we want it so it starts with me, not waiting for somebody else to bring it. And then we want students in charge of their own learning. And we are looking at so that we have a better balance between the academics and we are paying some attention to the leadership parts of it. The last 4 pages, 10 to 13, I'm not going to go under, but board members, if you want to look and see one of the smaller areas are that the Leader in Me talks about, you can certainly go ahead and do that. So that's why that is there, just so you can see what the topics are. And so that's all I wanted to do on that one. We'll talk about some of the program, software programs at the next board meeting. and we'll come with some recommendations for you on that area too.
What is the cost of Leader in Me?
50,000
A year?
a year. And you have, you're entering the second year of a 3-year contract with them.
So no matter what, we have it for 2 more years.
Yep.
So we won't decide that to get rid of it until 2 years.
Right. But it's one of those things where you go, do we have to do it? We have to do something. It is one of the few programs that's K through 12. Most, they're either elementary or they're high school or something else. It's one of the few that have stood this test of time over multiple decades. A lot of the others have just popped up, and I've seen many of them over the years. It's also a direct hit with the high school career academy, and then what we're trying to do in the elementary schools going up. It's one of the very few that do hit any of those marks, which is why it showed up here.
When would it be taught or worked on in the high school? I mean, I'm sure the elementary teachers, they probably do a lot of this stuff just automatically all day long in their classroom, building up the students. But when is this done in the high school? Same way?
So all of the high school teachers have had the 7 HAPS training. That happened. So that would continue into the high school. Now, you do have some classes who are doing it. You have some classes that are getting ready for the career academy, and this is infused into some of that curriculum already. So you do have some 7th, 8th, and 9th graders who already are being exposed to this. So we would continue that, and there's some other things in here that also would be included, like there's student groups who do things for certain buildings, similar to student council, but their focus is a little different. So we would keep moving on that. In addition to this, a big part of this is also, and teachers and principals will know what I'm talking about when I say this, measuring whatever is happening. So rather than assuming kids are getting better, measuring and paying attention to, as we're trying to move from here to here, little measurements along the way so that the kids are on track and we're heading in the right direction. Most people set a goal and then they stop. There's no measurement. So no surprise, most people don't actually get to their goals by the end of the year. So in this one, the Leader in Me, there's a lot more measurement and check-ins along the way. If we don't do this, frankly, things are going to collapse, because we do need something K-12, because we always said we wanted K-12, some continuity and regularity so that it was consistent all the way through. And we do need something to prepare our kids when they leave our building and go out and interact with other people. And if the principals, the system, myself, if we're not bringing it to the forefront always, a lot of this will get dropped. That's the reality of what will really happen.
I do believe, sorry.
No, yeah.
I do believe when we did the academic return on investment, it was closer to 56,000, if I remember correctly, but, somebody had reached out to me, I can't remember if it was an email or if I was in the school and somebody stopped me and talked to me about it, but, I believe there was also some funding grants that were, a part of paying for that as well.
There was.
So I just wanted to say that the feedback that I've received from this program, because I didn't necessarily see the value, was very positive. It seems like the teachers really like it. Just because I'm a novice at this, I'm trying to understand, like, how do they, or when do they do the instruction? Like, and how often? And then I'm also wondering, like, how does that work? How do they implement it? And are they given, I suppose, ideas on how to implement it in the classroom based on, or do the teachers get together and decide things that they can do in the classroom to implement it? Like, how does that work?
Yes. And you have some principals who are.
I would love to hear about it.
Expert over here. No, I just has to razz him. It's an actual curriculum.
Oh, okay.
There are books that come with it. There's an online part of that program. It currently is already implemented K through 2, like fully. And then with the plans of moving it up 3 through 6, but it's an actual curriculum. It's on the daily, it's about 15 minutes-ish per day.
So the principals, you kind of just keep in check with the classes to make sure they're doing it, or how does that work? Yeah?
There's a scope and sequence, just like reading and math. At Parkview, we have actually done because the scope and sequence goes through the habits. So we have actually had assemblies for each habit as well with the entire school, and done a few things with that.
All right, makes sense, thank you.
And then each grade is doing the same lesson at their level. So we're using the same common vocabulary between kindergarten and 6th grade on those same days.
Gotcha, thank you, makes sense.
Is it something that you guys have done long enough that you don't have to keep purchasing? You kind of have it in a working, it's working in the classes. You don't have to, you guys know it, and
Are you asking, can we,
skip buying the curriculum and
After
you
2
guys,
years, after the contract.
and then you know how to make it happen without buying more curriculum?
So I think in the future, that's something we can look at, not purchasing the actual reproducible things that we can, or the tangible, whatever. I can't think of the word. Consumables, thank you. But this is our first year doing it. This is our first year fully implementing it. So I don't know that we could confidently say, oh yeah, we've got this, because that online portion gives the teachers kind of like what you're talking about for the day. It's like a math or a reading curriculum. It's just leadership type,
And that might be a question for 2 years down the line, after the contract.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you view it as a curriculum, which is interesting because I just hear, nice words and positive words. And so to know that it is actually a makes a lot more sense to even invest that money,
To kind of answer your question, in the elementaries, the Lions Quest program was introduced 15 years ago, and every teacher was trained. The Lions Club paid for all the subs. They ran with it. They got books. They got the curriculum, and then after about 5 years, maybe 5 or 6 years, they didn't need it anymore. And guess what? The only person in this town that has the Lions Quest program is me up in my office. If you don't, I'm not saying it positively, but if you don't continue it and keep it in front, I think it would die, possibly. So.
And that's what you were thinking too. That was the point you made earlier.
It will die if you as a board don't support it. That's all I've got.
Okay. Moving along, treasurer's report. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Reardon,
Support.
support by Colbert-Dahl. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Policies, this is the first reading for 12 policies. You want to take them all one shot? Yeah, make a motion? Entertain a motion all at once?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Director Lotiger to take all these at once, second by Westby. Any discussion? I'm assuming these were all went through by the policy committee?
Yep, and there was this, some discussion at the policy committee meeting about how a lot of these have legislature statute type wording changes and things like that. Nothing incredibly significant.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Well, there was one on, I think it was the library. Yeah, library materials. It said, note, the school board may choose to delete paragraph E, which says gifts and donations of library materials. That was the heading. So I don't know if we need to discuss that or.
We didn't feel like there was anything we needed to delete.
Oh, just to keep it. Okay, I just want to know that. Okay.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Policies regarding electronic cell phone devices. Do these one at a time, or all at once, does it matter to me?
All at once.
Yeah.
Make a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Lotiger, support.
Second.
Support by Bonner, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 8.1, discussion and possible action on principal placements for the 25-26 school year.
Members of the board, let me frame this up for you. The Personnel Committee did meet and talk about this, and their recommendation from their committee was to move Scott Manning from North Star into the high school as the high school principal, and then have Sheena be the principal of both Parkview and North Star. And then on the day, she'd be the principal overall of both buildings. On the day that she was in North Star, we would put Todd Grippentrog, who was in special ed, and in special ed, you have a bonus because we can charge him a lot of his salary to special ed. If you don't leave him in the special ed position, then you lose the ability to do that, and then you just would need to know if he's in a principal role as the head principal, then you're just cutting another teacher next year because you're losing that much money in special ed revenue. So from the committee, the recommendation was Sheena, principal of both buildings, and when Sheena was in one building, we put Todd in the other building to handle any discipline, anything that came up. Then when Sheena was in the other building, then Todd would move to the other building and handle any discipline that came up. In addition to that, the Personnel Committee, and then I'll stop talking here, they did recommend that the whole board reconsider the dean and go back to 2 deans in the high school.
So just to clarify, just to be clear, we were given options. The Personnel Committee was given options of what could potentially happen. We discussed all of those options and what seemed to be the most fitting. And based on those discussions, Scott Manning being at the high school was the option that the Personnel Committee felt sounded the most.
Sound.
Yes.
Was it a unanimous vote or, do you remember?
I believe it was.
I believe it was. I believe it was. You were there too, right, Lisa?
Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah.
Jennifer, myself,
And
and,
John?
Maybe. I
yeah,
was there.
John.
And so
Sorry,
all of
Lisa.
you voted
You were last time.
this scenario.
Yep.
This scenario was good for you.
Now, members of the board, I do need to say that North Star, I went and talked to the North Star teachers. There was Friday afternoon, they were still there, God bless them. And we talked about this, and they, of those who were there, they would prefer one principal. They weren't enamored with the 2 principal concept. So that's what, I'm here to tell you that's what those teachers were expressing at the meeting. The most important one for you to put in is the high school right now. That is the most, because of scheduling and everything else. You could hold off on the elementary until June if you wanted to. That one, you could hold off a little bit and waiting on that one. High school one, I would really appreciate you letting me know what you want to do.
I think the other part of the discussion was that this was something that we were gonna look at for this upcoming school year, but then it was going to be reevaluated after that to determine, what we need to,
Yep,
what we
1 year.
need to do.
Yeah, I would say the North Star teachers, because I was there, were definitely more, I would say more than against it. They were very against it. They really want a full-time principal. And from all indication, Parkview seems to agree with that too. I'm just putting it out there.
And I definitely, as somebody that works in a school district, know that it's beneficial for sure to have a principal in each-
Consistency.
Yes.
That's
in
it.
In each
That's it.
building. I mean, it's, any discipline issues or just, I understand where the North Star is coming from. And I just feel like out of the options that were presented, it seemed like that was the best option was having Scott be at the high school, having the, Sheena be in one building, and if she's not there, then, Grip would be in the other building. It would only be for one
If
year.
he said we could do just the high school tonight and maybe visit this in June, I would make the motion to put Scott in the high school now and look at the elementary in a month.
You could do that.
That's my motion.
I'll second.
My only concern on this is if we don't keep Todd doing special ed, then we're gonna have to cut again because we're losing the special ed funding for his position.
Well, I think we can.
I mean, this is a 1 year thing.
And I just, and I also, I'm sure Sheena would like to know where she's gonna be 100%. It's the end of the school year and they gotta start making plans already for the start of next school year. So they're gonna want some decisions to be made as well.
I'll just say what I think. I'm in favor of a principal, full-time principal at both. And I would be willing to vote on a high school principal just to get that, solidified. And I do think when you're talking about a dean, I do think we need another dean at the high school. I think that's really important. We've worked hard for, behavior and discipline and all of that. And it's just a really big job and big position. And so that's just my 2 cents. But I'm not willing to, for me, go down to, halftime. It just doesn't even make sense to me, the principal thing at the elementary level.
The dean is definitely, when we voted on getting rid of the dean, I was not in support of that, mainly because of, I knew that the high school was gonna be going through a lot of changes and having an extra person there for disciplinary reasons is beneficial. And I heard that from teachers as well at the high school too, so.
I just think, all the emails that we've gotten, I'm sure all of you have from the staff at North Star, I realize, wow, what he has built at that school and the culture of it. And I can see where it would be really hard to change it. So I'm thinking now, if you just want us to decide on a high school principal and then talk about why even put Manny, because maybe he won't stay there. Maybe we'll put him back in the elementary.
Well,
why should we goof this all up now?
I think that of our principals, I've been told that he has high school experience for how many years? 20 years or?
15,
what
I
was
think
it?
it's 15, I think he said.
So I think that would be a reason to put him in the high school.
Kind of my thought process on Scott being at the high school. I know we got a lot of emails about, a couple of things I wanted to say. Remind me, because I probably will forget. One of them is about a lot of transitions happening at the North Star. But the other thing is a lot of people did email complimenting Scott on, the culture that he's kind of brewed there at North Star. And I think that's a benefit to the high school and what we're looking to do right now and what we need to have happen there. The other part that I was thinking about too is I think that Scott and Willie would work well together on moving the academies forward. And like I said, in the personnel committee, I had to think, again, been really trying to be mindful of what I was passionate about when we started this whole discussion about consolidation, collaboration, and that's the academies. And like I had mentioned before, definitely 100%, I know that we've definitely made a lot of progress, but we're not totally there yet. And one of the things was kids choosing their pathways. And Mark reassured me that kids are, the younger age level, I think he said 9th grade, are choosing their pathways and whatever. So we're making progress towards that. But I think that Scott and Willie would be able to move that further forward. So that was my thought. And then, you know, there was a lot of discussion too in those emails about all the transition and how North Star had to be at the Franklin and had a lot of moves and things like that. But if we were to go back, I mean, if you look at the Franklin and the staff there, they shared superintendent / principal. That was halftime. They had a dean that was halftime. I think Angie at one point was going back and forth from the Evelyn High School up to the Franklin and, you know, was doing that back and forth. So I think that, and even at the high school, there's been transition at the high school too with, you know, people, deans, things like that. So all of our buildings have gone through some of those transitions. And I understand what they're saying, that they feel like they've gone through the most. And maybe they have, but I do know that other buildings have gone through a lot of the similar transitions. And I think that if their principal was moved too, we'd get a lot of emails from those principals as well, or those teachers in those buildings advocating to keep theirs for consistency and things too. It's just, again, I'm just trying to keep in mind that this is a 1-year deal, see how it goes, and then make decisions from there. You know, whether we have to hire another principal or whatever the case may be in a year, we can look at that now, you know, down the road. But I do think Sheena and Grip and, you know, our principals want to know where they're going to be.
Okay.
We're
So-
only voting on, the motion is just for the
high school.
high school.
Yeah, that's a
anyway.
motion on the table. That's in a second. So,
Well, I don't know, this is kind of controversial, but I'll tell you what I think again. I think we move Manny to the high school and we put, you're not gonna like this, but Willie into North Star. We have Jill Oja at the school and she's doing a tremendous job with the Career Academy, and he had, like you said, it's for a year and we can, I don't know, she's doing an awesome job and she could work just as well with Mr. Manny. I think a lot of people in the community, you know, there's a lot of big salaries out there, and I just think this makes sense to me. Willie's been with, when it was Roosevelt, he'd go back, he knows that he did an amazing job as a principal and he's familiar with it. I think it would be a good fit, at least for a year. And they would have a principal that knows what could just, you know, go in and keep it status quo, and they could keep doing what they're doing. I just think it's a win-win. It makes sense to me.
That was presented to the personnel committee as an option to have Willie as a principal, and the committee that was there that day opted to keep him in his current role because he's such a vital cog to the academy, that he knows the business community. He's been placing these kids in their outreach programs and all that stuff.
But that's what Jill's been doing.
Jill has too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
and she has amazing ideas too, like she's really, you know.
I don't think making a decision that big without having it on the agenda, I don't think would be right either.
Can we talk about this at the working session in June? Would that be, you know?
can I just throw one thing out there? So the other part of the discussion at the personnel committee too, it was brought up that my note says that Jill may be brought back into counseling 50% of her time, but also 50% of her time could potentially be in the career counseling. So that was part of the discussion also. And I'm guessing that might have been what Mark was referring to earlier when he said depending, you know, some shifts in the counseling office and depending on what we decide tonight, you know, I think that that's possible that Jill would be there halftime. And yep, I know that when you get put into a position halftime, a lot of the times you get all that, the job duties still, even if you're halftime. And I get that too.
The other thing we have to piggyback on what you said is, this is our first year where we really got it rocking and rolling, and hopefully it's just gonna grow and be bigger and larger and more students getting involved. And so having Jill there part-time with Willie would be a good thing, I would think.
Willie's not the principal unique. He can't be transferred. You have to accept. That's,
Gotcha.
You would have to agree to this, yes.
Yeah.
he's not in the principal group.
You know,
The principals group, I think, would have to.
They might have a different opinion.
Well, just to muddy the waters a little bit more, your suggestion, Nicole, could we do Willie here, keep Willie here, keep Scott where he is. That way, I mean, Willie's over in this area anyway. And do the principal and wear two hats? Could he wear the two hats?
That was presented, I mean, to the personnel committee and the three of us there.
And back to the principal thing, he's not in the principal's union, he'd have to accept that too.
Yeah, he can
And
be
also,
appointed there.
you know, we've been receiving emails too that we have another principal that has high school experience as well, and, you know, that was thrown out there as an option too. But I don't know. I understand what people are saying about wanting to have a full-time principal in each building.
They'll just have two different personalities, is what it'll be.
No.
When Sheena's not in Parkview, Todd will be over there.
Well, and that's
Yeah.
what the staff was upset about, like, will be no consistency because there'll be two different people disciplining and there's no consistency with it.
Broken leadership. that
Yeah,
way.
and the thing is, I'm afraid, because these are two well-run buildings, in my opinion, and that it's gonna suffer, and I don't wanna see that suffer at all. And I believe the teachers are pretty strong. They know their stuff, and
Well, they're in the
that when
trenches, they
say
know,
that.
how the buildings are going.
Yeah, but Sheena's been doing the leader in me stuff too, and I trust in her abilities as well. I mean, those kids that are in K through 2 move up to the 3 through 6 there, so.
Familiar face.
Yeah, familiar face.
There's a motion on the table with support to just, for now, move Mr. Manning to the high school. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion passes 6 to 1. Okay,
So what are we gonna do about the other principals
about
then,
the
if
first
we're not
meeting in
making
June?
that
It's up to
decision
you.
tonight?
You
I
can
would
talk-
like to talk more about it. I think it's
At
worthy
the
of
working
that.
session?
Yeah.
Okay.
we have that for the working
Yeah,
session?
we can add it.
All right, there we go. I think, and then hopefully take action on, at the
That's a
meeting.
good point. What about the dean position? I'd like to make a motion to bring back a high school dean.
I would second that.
How would that be
It
financial?
was presented to us that we could do
It would not cost us
zero
anything.
cost,
It would,
some shifting.
If we
Well, you
could,
read my mind.
if we could make it work, there is a possibility, depending who applies for it, you need an internal candidate. And then depending what you do with Willie and Jill, some shifting around, we could make it so it doesn't cost you anything. But there is a possibility, if you vote yes, we might not be able to do it cost neutral.
But I think that what we heard earlier from Mr. Winter is if we don't have that dean, behaviors are gonna go
We don't
down.
want to go back.
And we don't wanna go backwards.
No.
when would we know if it wasn't going to cost us any money?
We would, first of all, you would have to say yes, go ahead and
Post it.
do this. Then we would post the position internally to everyone, and then we would see who applied. And once we knew who had applied, we'd go through an interview process like we normally do, and then we'd see depending who it is, where they're at, what bumping would happen, or how we'd have to fill what that person was doing. Then we'd know, but that might be 2 weeks out.
Okay, but yeah, I think we should start that process then, so we know.
What is the chances of getting an SRO back?
I would love to have an SRO back, so would your teachers. So I'll talk to them again. We did have a plan that we thought would work with the police chiefs where even using just people who are looking for overtime, if they signed up, because they're usually working at night, not all of them. But yes, there is a way for this to happen. We just need 3 cities to agree with it, 3 city councils plus 1 school board, and I think it would work.
And we would not be paying the wage?
No, you are gonna be paying the wage.
Yeah,
But you do get some money to do this
okay.
on the levy, so you do have some money there to do it. But even if you got officers 4 days a week, we're you are paying overtime for them to be in the high school mostly, and then float around. It still would be cheaper than you hiring your own full-time one, because the officers who would come in, they already have benefits. They're already paid. So it's just the overtime that you're paying for. And benefits can easily be a 30%, 35% of the total.
Sounds like
rate.
6th and 7th hour have been a problem. If we could even get them in the afternoon, just to get kids back to their classroom and, or just whatever, just.
Yeah, and I believe the 3 police chiefs, and I'm hoping that the councils from those 3 cities would be receptive to figuring something out.
I think we need to look at, push for that, get that back in the school.
Yeah, that.
Agreed.
Chair, there's a motion on the table.
Ms. Ritz, gonna call for a vote. Any more discussion on bringing a dean back to this? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion passes 6-1, excuse me. Director Westby voting no. 8.2, discussion and possible action on daycare transportation for the 25-26 school year. Mr. Bob Voss.
Evening, board members. About 2 weeks ago, it was on April 28th, I was here at the board meeting, and I made a presentation on the Apple Tree Learning Center. And thought I'd give you a couple of weeks just to think about, what I had talked about. I know that night you had received an email from one of the other daycare centers. So just looking for direction on what you want me to do for the upcoming school year.
I'd like to have not a pickup in the morning, but I'd like to have a drop-off at all 3 of those daycares. That's how I feel about it.
I didn't hear that. Could you repeat that, Jen?
I feel like we should not go to the daycare in the morning and then bring them to the school. Because I think parents would have to drop them off at the school first. So we only do a pickup, or we only drop them off at the daycare at the end of the day.
That's correct. We drop them off at the end of the day?
We take them to the daycares right now at the end of the
Take
day.
them there
We're talking
right
about one specific daycare.
We're doing pre-K, so they're going to the daycare in the mornings, correct?
We're talking all ages. That,
Can you,
Tell us what we do,
yeah, okay,
Bob.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
We have 3 major daycares. Range Tykes, Apple Tree, which made a move to Evelyn.
Yep.
Milestones Daycare, which is located down by UPS in Virginia. Okay, we pick up at Iron Range Tykes and Milestones, and we picked up at Apple Tree when it was in Virginia. Apple Tree made a choice to move to Evelyn. That puts them on the other side of the boundary line. Okay, that's the problem here. Those other daycares receive travel back and forth with our students every day. Apple Tree, because of the move they made, they're on the other side of the attendance boundary line for elementary. We can't supply a bus in the morning because the kids would be late for school almost a half hour, 20 minutes to a half hour late for school every time. We can get them from the Parkview, from the North Star to Apple Tree. We are making an exception that you decided that you wanted to make earlier in the year. And our bus is bringing them over when we go and pick up the high school kids. So there's no cost to the school district because we're coming this way anyway. Okay, that's not true in the morning because the kids would be late for school and that's not acceptable to the principal.
I have a question. Right now,
Yep.
since we've been doing this for Apple Tree, the parents are dropping their kids off there. So we have no buses in the morning going to Apple Tree.
Correct.
If we continue to do that, it doesn't cost us
I take that
anything.
back, Tim. The buses servicing the Evelyn side, the south side of the boundary line are going to Apple Tree.
Okay, well, yeah. We're not making any special arrangements for students
In the
from,
morning.
in the morning, and I think that's the way we should.
And it's working out that the parents
It's
are
working out,
dropping
yeah.
them off, and it's not, the bottom line is it can't cost us money.
Yeah,
So at best, we could continue doing what we're doing, although this all did start gratuity, because they were in a pickle.
yeah.
So,
And it doesn't sound like they had choice. They had some major water damage, right? And they had to,
yeah.
they had to move.
They had to, they had no choice, yeah.
but
And are they, which one's the largest? Do you know, Bob?
You know what? I would say Iron Range Tykes is probably the largest. Those two, Apple Tree and Iron Range Tykes. are-
Equal, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, because you used 13, right? Is 13 the number of kids?
Yeah, I think that's what she said. I checked Iron Range Tykes and they're 14, they're 14 with 5 pre-K. And Apple Tree looks like they're 13 with 17 pre-K of ours. That's what it kind of sounds like it is right now for next school year.
Okay.
So are you saying it's doable for after school? No, it's not of any cost to the school district?
It doesn't right now, no.
Okay. Get them, just continue what we're doing.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to continue what we're doing for next year.
I'll second that.
Third,
Any discussion?
fourth,
Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Consider approval of resolution relating to the termination and non-renewal of the teaching contract of Linda Fedor, a probationary teacher effective at the end of the 24-25 school year. So moved. Motion by Reardon,
Second.
second by Director Westby. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Actually, it's a resolution.
Oh, I'm gonna go.
Sorry.
Good catch.
Yep.
Roll call vote, Director Reardon?
Yes.
Director Lotiger?
Yes.
Director Colbert Dahl?
Yes.
Director Yuhan's a yes. Director Westby?
Yes.
Director Westby?
Yes.
Director Bonner?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you for that good catch.
5.
Meeting announcements. We'll start at 9 o'clock, so we're making that perfectly. Plenty of time, the pregame. Oh, that's not on the agenda. Next regular meeting will be Monday, June 9th, right here at 6 o'clock.
And congratulations to the graduates because we won't be here.
Oh,
Oh, my goodness.
excellent.
Yeah.
Emotional.
That's a 5 o'clock working.
Oh, good catch. Working session at 5, meeting at 6. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Lotiger, second by Westby. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Don?